when you're in the do, have, be, guess where you're operating from? The mental.
Mhm.
That's your operation. And the mental is the enemy of God. Like that's our natural man. That's where our natural man roams. And so when we're operating from our mental, we are literally separating ourselves from God. And God's the best business partner ever.
Hello, prosperity seeker, and welcome to another episode of the Prosperity Approach. I'm your host, Allyson Chavez. And as always, I am so thrilled, so excited that you've joined me today. And I am over the moon excited to introduce you to today's guest. She's going to talk about all about the being rather than the doing and how that relates to money. But before I introduce you to her, if you're listening to the audio version of this episode, be sure you're following the podcast on your favorite app. And if you happen to be catching this on YouTube, we would sure love it if you would subscribe and click on the notification bell so you're notified every time we drop a new podcast. And if you are looking for some really great resources and meditations, head on over to AllysonChavez.com. We've got lots of great free resources over for you there. And if you are in the event arena or know somebody who is, I'm traveling now and loving to share my message live on stage. So if you know anybody who would resonate with that message on stage, hook us up, if you would, at clientcare@AllysonChavez.com. All right. Let me introduce you to the one, the only, Elisha Gough. And let me tell you just a little bit about Elisha. She has been mentoring in business since 2014 and influenced hundreds of business owners. Her experiences have made her an expert in increasing business profitability by aligning her clients with their mission and purpose. Her methodology centers around divine feminine leadership skills that connect to the heart. Are you knowing why I've had her on? I'm having her on as a guest today. She trains her clients to find, see, and bridge the internal gaps that keep them from achieving their business and personal goals and results. She lives in Dickinson, North Dakota with 4 warrior kids. Elisha, welcome to the Prosperity Approach.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. Seriously, this has been just an honor. I have been following you for years, and to be in the same space with you is quite an honor. So thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, likewise, my friend, likewise. So I was so excited when we were talking about like, hey, what do we want to talk about today? And it was really like, let's talk about the ebb and flow of money and the ebb and flow of abundance. And how can we get that to like show up for us through the being rather than the doing? Because I would bet dollars to donuts that your clients are very similar to mine in that we've got the doing nailed down.
Oh,
like,
perfect.
Just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. Tell me how to do it. If I have to learn how to do a backflip, if I have to stand on my head, if I have to make calls,
Yes,
like I will do it. But the being part, I get this whole like, how do I do that? How do I do the being?
How do
I do the being? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the being and the ebb and the flow. Where do you want to go with this?
Oh, I love it. Well, first of all, just to understand the difference between the doing and the being, because a lot of people are like, well, what's the difference? Like,
yeah.
I am doing and being in the same, like I'm being in the doing. What are you talking about? Right.
Right. And yet, are you?
So I wanted to just go a little bit into this. So us women, I work primarily with women.
Mm-hmm.
When we're in the doing, we're actually in the counterfeit masculine. And the reason why is because God created us to be in our divine feminine, which is not saying that we aren't ever in masculine, because we all have masculine and feminine. Mm-hmm. But when we run and operate mainly from the masculine, it's counterfeit. It actually leads us out of the truth of who we are. And so we end up running around like a chicken with our heads cut off. And we want to control and demand. And we're in this problem solving space. And we have all this fear that we're trying to push away and ignore. And then, we react instead of respond. And then there's so much judgment on ourselves and the people around us. Mm-hmm. And that all leads to tons and tons of anxiety, right? Yeah. And that is because of the business world. Men are amazing doers. Like God created them to be the doers of this world. And so they have created a formula of the do, have, be. And so, of course, we're learning from the men, thinking that the men's formula is going to totally work for us women. And guess what? It does to a point. Mm-hmm. And it's not sustainable. And then when it's not sustainable, we're like, what are we doing wrong? D, the doing. What are we doing? How can I need to do more. What do I need to do here? Oh my gosh, I don't know how to make this balance. And we're just in this space of chaos, and we get burnt out and we feel overwhelmed. And then we're like, now we really feel like we're not doing it right. Now we really feel like, because we got into business. I mean, I don't know about you, Allyson, but for me, I got into business to be with my kids more, to make more stability for our finances, not to work more, not to like take away my time. I got into business to create more time in my life.
It's like the great lie.
Yeah. Except it didn't happen. And I'm like, what the heck?
Right. I like eventually you can get to that time freedom space. Yeah. But I really love this conversation about the do have be, because that really is what we're taught. But it does rob you of time freedom if you're always doing. And you're like, I'm like, did you climb into my brain of like who I was 3 years ago? What am I doing wrong? Except then I went to what's wrong with me.
Exactly.
What am I doing wrong?
Yep.
What is wrong with me?
And we start taking it on as our identity. And that's what the do have be formula does, is it robs us of our identity, our divine identity. And so what I have in my passion and my desire, and what I'm really feeling pulled to do, is to teach women how to get out of the doing and into the being. And that being is the divine feminine formula. And what that looks like is the be, do, have. Now understand, we're not done with the do, but the do doesn't get to go first.
Thank you so much for that. Because what I have found with so many women is they come in and they just totally vilify the masculine do. And I'm just going to be feminine. And I'm like, actually, you're not even being feminine at this point.
That's still counterfeit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love this. That you're like, we still got to do, like, we still have to, if you're going to be a successful female leader and a female entrepreneur and a business owner, there is plenty of do that's involved.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't get to come first anymore.
No.
I love this so much. I love this so much.
But see, here's another thing. When you're in the do have be, guess where you're operating from? The mental. Mm-hmm. That's your operation. And the mental is the enemy of God. Like, that's our natural man. That's where our natural man roams, is in our mental. And so when we're operating from our mental, we are literally separating ourselves from God. And God's the best business partner ever. And we're separating ourselves from God because I gotta do this. And then what happens is we get so overwhelmed. We're like, okay, God, I'll finally pray. What do you want me to do? God's like, wait a minute. It's not your job. Like, settle, calm, be still, right? There's those scriptures that all remind us, be still, know that I am. And so the being is learning who you are and stepping into that truth. And that truth is the same for all of us women, but we get to find out who that is intellectually and spiritually, and then bring them together. And that's what my expertise is to take the mental out of the job and give it a new job by teaming up with the heart. And through the heart, we lead. And that's when you can receive that divine inspiration and direction and do what you're inspired to do, so that you can have what you desire to have. And that's the divine feminine formula of the be, do, have. Because it's not that you get rid of what you desire. So many women come to me and be like, yeah, but if I do that, then what if what I want isn't what God wants? I'm like, oh my goodness, women, if it's in your heart, the heart, right? You drop from the brain into the heart. The heart's where God teaches and inspires. And if what you desire is in your heart, guess what? It's from God. And he absolutely wants you to have it. But you think you have to be in charge of it. And that's why you go into the do, have, be, which then takes us completely out of alignment with who we are. And then we tie God's hands and he can't be our partner anymore until we're willing to submit and let go of the end result, the how. We get to let go of the how. It's not our job to know the how. Our job is to be in alignment with who we are, ask for direction, take action, and then we receive.
And it's so simple and yet not easy.
No.
Because first of all, you're unwinding thousands of years of conditioning and programming.
Absolutely. Yep.
Plus, we're all in a society now that really, really values the do, have, be, really values. And like you said, to your point at the beginning of this interview, like that model works. Well, we've seen it work, but at what cost? And it only works to a certain point. And when I was first really learning how to be feminine, I worked with somebody who was like, you got to get out of your head and into your heart. So I really love that you teach this, because it was so hard for me to do that. She's like, picture this slide that's going from your head. And I'm like, I can't, I don't know how do I do it? Am I in my heart yet? Am I in my heart yet? So I'm like totally questioning about whether I'm out of my head, which right there tells me I didn't even get close to my heart.
Well, I can totally give you a tool on your team. Yeah, totally.
Would you?
So here's the best way to do it. I love doing it this way, and it might sound a little weird, but I tell you, it works so amazingly. So we have, my business is called 5 Elements of Wholeness. The reason why is because we have the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and the energetic systems of our body. Mm-hmm. And until they all come into wholeness through the heart, we are going to be all over the place. Yep. We won't be able to be in alignment. And so what we do is I like to visualize. And if you're not a visualizer, that's okay. You can talk yourself through this. You don't have to visualize it, but I'm a visualizer. So I imagine that I have all of these podiums, and I put my mental here, and I put my spiritual over here, and I put my physical here, and I put my I forgot all the ones I've said anyway. Anyway, I put all 5 of them on these pedestals, right? And I'm right in the middle, which represents the heart. And then I'm like, okay, I look at the mental and I say, hey, mental, you have done an amazing job helping me so far. Like, you are incredible. I am just so grateful for you. And I can tell you're pretty tired. And the mental, you're going to hear it. The mental is going to be like, oh my gosh, you've made me do this and this and this and this. You're like, I know. And you know what? You've done such a great job. Would you like a new job? And the mental is going to be like, what does that look like? And you're going to be like, hey, this is what I love to do. And I'm very, very religious, and I'm very spiritual. And so I include Jesus Christ. So I asked Jesus Christ to come and stand between me, the mental, and so me and the Christ, and then the mental. So he's right in the middle, right? Mm-hmm. And so when I talk to the mentals just straight on, the mental's like, I don't think I trust you, because the heart doesn't know what it's talking about. Because I'm talking from the heart space, right? So then I look at Jesus Christ, and I'm like, and I look at the mental, and I said, mental, would you be willing to team up with the heart through Jesus Christ? And the mental's like, yeah, totally, I could do that. And so then all of a sudden there's this connection through Christ to the heart now, instead of the mental doing whatever it darn well wants. Okay. And then I do the same thing with the body, and I do the same thing with the emotional system, and I do the same thing with the energetic system, and I do the same thing with the spiritual system. And then when they all team up through Christ to the heart, guess who gets to lead? The heart. And the heart's so happy, but the heart won't take charge. So if the mental decides to go and do it again because you let it, because of fear, mm-hmm. the heart's not going to go, mental, come back, come back, come back. The heart will just sit there until it's ready to be teamed up with the heart again. And this is where mindset is super important, and where being willing to do your inner work is. And I teach 3 key principles on how to step into the divine feminine. And the number 1 is to do your inner work. And what that means is you be willing to look at your stuff, look at your inner dialogue, look at your fears, your traumas, all that stuff that we hide from, mm-hmm. and choose to look at it. And another thing is to choose to look at it through Christ, so much less scarier than trying to do it all on our own.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's such a beautiful filter. I'm highly religious and faith-based as well. And so this really, really resonates with me. For anybody who perhaps the Christ figure doesn't resonate, if you do it through angels or just do it through a filter of love and light, like that will work as well.
Something that's higher than you, like even the universe.
Yes, like that is so beautiful, because one thing that I have learned as I've matured in learning the difference between the head leading and the heart leading and all of that, and then how to get out of my head and into the heart, it's very spacious in my heart. Like I know I'm there because it's quiet. like when I'm in my
Exactly. And
body.
there's
And
peace
yes, and like it's
and certainty.
spacious. Yes.
Yes.
And instead of like that that's going on in my head all the time, and
Yep.
let's, douse it with, pepper it with some anxiety here and there. And what if this doesn't work? And like, oh, did you read that article? Like instead of all of that
Yes. Yes.
nonsense, it's just like, actually, no, we're gonna slide down. And as I practice, like it just gets easier and easier to do. But I'm actually going to use that. I'm going to use that visualization. I think that's a really, really beautiful visualization to do to
Yeah,
connect
and
your
the
heart.
reason why I like doing that visualization is because it helps those of us that are the doers. Because it's like you're doing something. You're like bringing it all into you, and you're bringing yourself into wholeness, which is so much simpler for us to do, especially for us those of us that are recovering doers, is to go, okay, that is doing. Like I am doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're doing it, you get to trust yourself that it's working.
Yes. Okay. So here's my question, because I know somebody's going to be wondering this. So then what happens after that?
So after that, then that's when you open that conduit. Because, okay, so how this works is you have, for me, I mean, this, you get to use whatever languaging is going to work the best for you. But I have God as the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Jesus Christ, who is the advocate, who goes to God.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Holy Ghost, which is the advocate that goes to Jesus Christ. And the Holy Ghost is what connects to our heart.
Mm-hmm.
So when the heart is fully aligned with all of these systems, then that it expands the capacity for our communication with God like tenfold. And then we get to go, okay, and see, for a long time I got to visualize it because it was hard for me to know if I was getting it in my head or my heart
Mm-hmm.
when I would receive direction, because sometimes my brain still wanted to take over because it wasn't really sure if it was okay to trust the heart yet.
Yep.
And oftentimes if I would get direction and I would be like, okay, did I hear that in my head or did I hear that in my heart? And so I would put my hand over my heart and I would look at my heart and I'm like, okay, heart. And again, I'm a visual person. So I'm like, I look at the conduit and I'm like, did that information come through the heart, or did the mental decide it wanted to take over again? And if the mental took over again, I'm like, oh, immediately I went into, I forgive myself. I forgive my mental. How about another job? Let's team up with Christ and do this again. And then I would ask, okay, now is that direction that's aligned with my direction, aligned with God? And if it was a no, because most of the time, if it was from the mental, it was a no. And you'll get it. It comes right here. Like you can feel it right in your chest feeling. Mm-hmm. And it's a feeling. It's not so much words as much as a feeling or a nudge or sometimes people get goosebumps. Sometimes I've even had some women that like, oh my gosh, my hands are on fire. It's like, okay, does that mean it's a yes or a no? And they're like, it's a yes. I'm like, okay, now that's how you know God talks to you, is through your hands. Or I've had people that are like, I feel so tired. I was like, oh, okay, is that tired telling you it's a no? Or is it telling you it's a yes? And usually, oh, it's a no. My brain wants to shut off because it doesn't want to take action. So there's, it's just learning how you're being communicated to. But as soon as you start hearing voices in your head going, no, you can't do this, I guarantee you that is not from God. Mm-hmm. That is your internal dialogue trying to take over again.
Oh, I love this. This is so fun. Okay, so let's tie this to money. So, so this is you, like, this is getting into the being and like aligning and partnering with God. So how do we work with the ebb and flow of money with the being energy rather than the doing energy so more can come?
Yes. Okay. I'm going to just give you a story because the story is going to be the best way to explain this. So once you have all of your systems in alignment and you're coming from the heart, I'm going to give you just an example. I wanted to create a $10,000 month, like consistently. And as soon as I made that goal, oh my gosh, the brain decided it didn't want to team up with the heart anymore. And it's like, oh, I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I need to do this. And I was like,
I'm raising my hand to that. Yep. Wow, I relate.
Okay. So that's when I got to go, oh, okay, I appreciate you wanting to take over. And you know what? You do have a job. And your job is to lead generate. And it is to do this. And it is to do this. And it is to send out emails. And it is to create a program. And it is like just validating, not shutting the mental off, but just validating what it wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then it would be like, okay, now we're going to take that through Christ. and go, okay, God, what would you have me do? What's the 3 top priorities on my forever long list of what you would have me do? And I cannot tell you how many times God tested me on this, because I would ask him and I would have I'm not like front and back list of all the things that need to be done, all the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now understand, I'm just going to clarify this really quick. You already know what needs to be done daily in your business. God already knows what you need to do daily in your business. These are non-negotiables. That would be responding to your emails. That would be your lead generation. That would be your foundational stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Those are already a given. You don't need to ask God if you should do those. Those are already something that gets to be done on a daily basis anyway, because that's part of the foundation of a business.
Yeah.
The other stuff, though, all of the crazy stuff that makes you go nuts, that's not. That gets to be on that list of all the crazy stuff that you want to do, right?
Right.
And then you go, okay, what would you have me do? And you wait. And sometimes I'll look through the list on both sides. And if something pops out, I know that gets to be one of the priorities.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, there's been times where I have felt that nothing on that list is to be done today. And I'm like, okay, panic comes in. What the heck? I have things I got to do, right? And instead it's like, you need to go take your kids out of school and go play at the park. What the heck does that have to do with business? What the heck does that have to do with money? Right?
Uh-huh.
And I obeyed it, even though I'm like the whole time I'm going, this does not make sense, God. Like, this doesn't have anything from what I've been taught how to do business. Again, doing business, right?
Yeah.
But I obeyed, and I went and I took my kids out. We went to the park, and I met this amazing woman there. She was playing with her little girl, and she asked me what I do, and I'm explaining, and she's like, oh my gosh, I have a friend that has been looking for somebody just like you. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, she's in marketing and she's really struggling in this aspect. Is it okay if I give her a call right now? I'm like, sure. She gives her a call. I have a strategy call right there and then with this woman I have never met in my entire life. And she signs up for my $10,000 course. And I just wanted to make $10,000 2 days ago.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with doing more. It had to do with being and willing to listen and take action on what I was being told. And then you take action and God takes care of the how.
And he gives you the how. I think that's an important distinction to make as well, because the hows aren't your part, but that doesn't mean that action isn't your part, but God delivers you the action to take.
Yes.
It's inspired. And
if you're willing to listen, even when it's weird, even when it makes absolutely no business sense whatsoever, he'll test you. And if you choose to take action, you will receive.
Oh, that's so fun. I have goosebumps. Talk about like when your heart talks to you, I get these goosebumps on me, which is so fun. Okay.
Yes.
So we're in this
period. Being in the ebb and flow.
Yes. Okay. So most of us want to be in flow all the time, which actually you don't, because that's a flood and you can't breathe and then you drown. So there are times you do, it does need to ebb, but there's a lot of people in business right now where the money is ebbing and can get people into a lot of panic. And so do you have anything that you do with yourself or with your clients when we're in these really unique circumstances right now in a whole global economy and everything that's going on to help you through those ebb times?
Oh, absolutely. So I actually just experienced a huge ebb when my ex just walked out on us, and he was my primary provider. And so within literally 24 hours, I was no income. And rent was due in like the following week. And I'm like, holy cow, what the heck do I do here? And of course, your brain goes into all the ways of problem solving. And again, I recognize that and go, oh, I'm in the masculine, and I can't team up with God when I'm in the masculine. I don't have that prosperity mindset. I'm having that fear mindset. And so it's doing, again, my inner work, being willing to look at that, finding out what's the core of that, and then choosing to trust myself, to trust God to show up for myself or for my situation. And again, it's just using that same process. But here's what I love to do is I love to visualize the ocean, because as you know, the ocean comes in and it goes out, and it goes in and it comes out. And there's high tide, there's low tide,
Mhm.
and it comes in and it goes out. And you know what? The sand doesn't freak out as soon as the water leaves the sand, right? And the snails don't, and the crabs don't freak out as soon as the water leaves. And they don't, well, oh my gosh, it's never going to come back. Oh my gosh, blah, blah.
You see all these crabs just frantically running for the water.
Right. Because they know that it will come back. They don't know when and they don't know how, but they trust that it will flow back in.
Mhm.
And that's what we get to do, is we get to trust it.
Yes.
I was listening to Robert Kiyosaki the other day, and he was talking about how when we're in a space of ebb, our first thought is, what do I have to cut back on? What do I need to stop buying? What do I need to stop getting? What do I need to stop doing? And that puts you immediately into scarcity. And as we know, what we focus on grows.
Mhm.
So if we're in a space of like, oh my gosh, it's not coming in, what do? We got to cut back. But you're just going to keep creating that over and over. It's essentially what you're doing. If you want to go back to the ocean again, is you're standing at, let's just say that you're standing on the beach and all of a sudden the water goes out and you're like, I got to back up. Oh my gosh, I don't know when it's going to come back. Go. And pretty soon you're so far away from the water that it never comes back in, because you freaked out and decided that you had to go figure out how to bring the water in yourself.
Okay. That's a great analogy.
Right. And so if we were just to stay there and stay centered and trust that the water's going to come back, and it's okay if we sit there for a little while and bury our feet in the sand, it's okay.
Mhm.
And in that space is where we get to go, okay, what do I want to create instead? Instead of problem solving, what would I like to create? That's the divine feminine.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Oh, my word, Elisha, this has been such a fantastic conversation. And I know people are going to want to know where to find you. How can they connect with you? I know you also have a freebie for them. So will you share all the ways that people can connect with you and what you want to share today?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn. It's at Elisha/Medlin. I haven't changed it on LinkedIn yet. So it's Medlin for my old last name. But Instagram is Elisha/Gough. A second, sorry.
And that's Gough.
Gough. It's just like cough, only with a G.
Awesome.
And then on Facebook, the same way, is Elisha-Gough. And then I also have a Facebook group that's called Change From Within. It's a faith-based business mentoring that I share lots of tools and strategies in there. And then I actually am having a masterclass that is coming again next month in September, right? We're in September. I'm like, think about that. Anyway, if you are interested in that, feel free to message me, because I have 2 dates and I haven't solidified the 2 dates yet.
Okay.
So message me on Messenger and I can get those dates to you, and then we can get you registered and all that. And it's totally free, but I go into depth on how to get out of the doing and step into the being. And I don't only just teach you how to do that, I also give you tools to implement so that you can take it and continue forward, or you can choose to go into my other courses. So those are the options.
Beautiful. I love it. And we'll have the links below so that you can just quickly see how to message her and connect with her. But Elisha, this has been such an honor. I know people are just absolutely in love with you as much as I am. Thank you so much for being here. And all of you, to my beautiful audience, thank you so much for your listening ears and your seeing eyes. And remember, prosperity becomes you.